Okay, so this will be recorded. If you know anyone that would like to see any of the breakfasts, either from today or ones in the past, you can go onto our website. We record them all and you can send people there. And most of them that we've been having lately are not really time sensitive. So please spread the word, because, you know, with not being able to have in-person meetings, of course, there are less people that end up showing up on Zoom at a particular time. We can spread that information by sending people to the website. So please do that. That's going to be a really important thing to do. Okay. So I'm going to start. I have a few things I need to talk about. And one of them is...
You keep freezing.
I'm freezing?
Yeah.
No.
Not to me.
Maybe for you. It might be you, Dusty. Might be your feed.
Yeah, you're not freezing here.
Okay, thanks.
Good.
Thank you.
Said Dennis. Okay.
Okay, so first of all, we have lost another dear member of Democrats of the Red Rocks. Her name is Karen Keller. And I know many of you knew Karen. I knew Karen when we were canvassing together in 2018. I was really fortunate to get to know her. She was always so willing to help out. And she had such a sweet, gentle spirit. You know, never had anything ever come up with Karen that was, she just accepted what was going on. She went with the flow. She was a wonderful person to work with. And my understanding is that she worked with DORR all the way back to when Janet Napolitano was running for governor, a long time ago, right? She actually knew Janet Napolitano's nephew. She lived in the same apartment complex as him. So I believe that's how they got to know each other. And Janet actually helped Karen get into ASU. So during that election season, when Janet Napolitano was running for governor, Karen and a bunch of other women decided that they were going to work really hard in the Sedona area and get the vote out. Well, to their surprise and many other people's, they found out that Sedona was not majority red, it was majority blue. Okay, a lot of those women then went on to found DORR, and Karen was instrumental in all of that. She was just amazing. I remember her telling me, we were at a canvas and we have some technology we get to use now. And she said, I remember having paper lists. We had all these paper lists and we had to make sure we kept track of it. And they just took the bull by the horns and did it. And of course, Janet Napolitano was elected, thanks to their efforts also. And that was just the beginning for Karen. She stayed invested in DORR her whole entire time in Sedona. And, you know, I'm going to miss seeing her. She'd come in her big floppy hat with her small little truck that she let us use for other purposes too. She was just such a sweetheart. I found out also from talking to other people that she loved to hike, and she was devoted to helping other people. You know, she put her caring into practice. You know, she was very generous. She helped people out when they needed help. She gave them flowers and plants and cards. You know, she put her heart into action. And I talked to her husband, Ed, and I learned that they traveled many different places in the world. And, you know, part of it, I think, was Ed's work took them to some of these places, but he emphasized how important it is for us to get connected with people that are different than ourselves, to expand our reach, to learn to accept differences. And he thought that was really important, and I'm sure that Karen did too. She's going to be so missed. There were so many things. We have there's a group that does Corner Democracy. She would always show up even after she was ill. She'd show up when there was a climate crisis corner, the Friday for that, or Tuesday, whenever it was, it kind of moved around. She would still show up. So I want to honor all of Karen's investment and work that she did for Democrats of the Red Rocks. And, you know, she reached out to other areas too and was involved. So I just want to say I'm very sad that she's gone, and remember her. Ed did say when I talked to him, her husband, that, you know, they didn't really have a big service or anything. They had a few friends there actually when she passed. But what she wanted was if people, anybody wants to do anything, that, you know, you could donate money if you wanted to the Humane Society. He also mentioned Democrats of the Red Rocks to remember her. So that's about Karen. All right. Now I gotta pull my brain back together here. All right. So we have a few announcements of some stuff coming up. I do want to show you our new website that is. So Shelley, can you pull that up for me because I don't see the email? I'm going to show you this because it has all the events up there, and Shelley Haken, who is pulling it up for us, and her husband Woody have been putting tons of work into this new website, and I think it's really excellent. It looks so professional. It looks so 21st century. So it's pretty exciting. There we go. So here's our new website. It's going to go live next week. Doesn't it look good? I think it looks great.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Can you go to, some of the upcoming events? We have a scavenger hunt that's going to happen on September 30th at 4 o'clock to 5:30. And the link's right there. You can go ahead and sign up. You know, we are so invested in changing the world and making the world a better place. We're so connected that sometimes we just need to let that stuff go and have fun. And believe me, this is going to be fun. The last one I went to was a lot of fun, and Ellen Ferreira is also planning this one, so it's going to be a great time. You don't have to have a team of your own. I'm just going to join whoever's there and get on their team and, you know, go our team. We have to figure out the name. I don't even know who we are yet, but please sign up for that. Okay, and let's see. I also wanted to show where they could become a friend of the Democrats. Shelley. That link. So we have a new little thing that we're trying to do. We do need money to keep going. We have an office and we print stuff and we have to, pay rent. We have to do all of those kinds of things. And so we have, I think it's down at the bottom, Shelley. I can't see the bottom. There you go. Become a friend of DORR. So we'd like you all to become a friend of DORR because I know you are friends of DORR. And if you could help us out, that would be great. This is a way to make a monthly donation, come into the circle of friends of DORR, and you can make a donation with whatever works for you, whatever per month works for you. If any one of those amounts don't work, you know, if you'd like to do something smaller or bigger, you can email us to donate a different monthly amount. So please become a friend of DORR. We really need your help. It's particularly difficult when we cannot have in-person events. Okay, that's good, Shelley. Thank you so much for that. So go on and explore all the other stuff. As I said, the breakfasts are on there. So any breakfast that you miss, you can go on there and watch them if you weren't here at that time.
So here are the links to all the prior breakfasts.
Yeah, so there's the prior breakfast.
And if I could just say one quick thing about membership.
Sure,
Kathy?
go ahead. Shelley, you're a little light on the volume.
All right, hold on. I think I know why.
This should be better.
That is much better. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, we also just we also just started a new membership database. So going forward, you're going to be able to join or renew your memberships online, and you can do that through the website. This website will be live probably next week. So you can click on these links. The links are also in the new emails or in our emails, and it'll just ask you to confirm or update your information, which we had from our old database. And then you'll just get reminders to renew and stuff like that. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you for that. And of course, you don't have to live in this state to join DORR. you can encourage your friends outside the state. Because Arizona, of course, is still and is going to be probably for a while a battleground state. What happens in Arizona affects the rest of the United States, right? Okay, we have a thing going on now, which is critically important. It's called the Independent Redistricting Commission. And they are the commission that will redraw the lines for our political districts, for our legislative districts and our congressional districts. It is so important that this happens in a fair and transparent way. And there are some issues that have come up with the mapping tool that they purchased, which does not allow the public to use it very easily, if at all. You know, you have to be really techie, way beyond me to use it. And so we have a petition out, and Ellen has put that in the chat. And that petition basically asks the IRC to please figure out a way to give the public a way to submit maps. There are maps that have been drawn, the very initial maps. We do not like them, and we want to see changes made to them. And you're supposed to submit maps to the IRC. And right now it's impossible to do it. So please, please go to the petition and sign it. That is in the chat. And also, maybe even more important, but you should do both, go to the IRC's website, Independent Redistricting Commission. You probably should put Arizona in there. You go to their website and you can comment and say basically, hey, these maps are unusable. How are we supposed to have public input if we cannot use the maps? This is critically important. We will be having, I want to say stuck with these districts until 10 years from now, 2030, 10 years. So it's really important that we say something about it right now. Okay, so that is my last announcement. I want to turn it over now to Ellen Ferreira. Of course, I think one of the key ways that we are going to change our state from reddish purple to blue is by registering more Democrats across the state. It is critically important that we register Democrats to vote so we can make the changes we need to make in our state legislature, in our laws, and even at the federal level. So I'm going to turn it over to Ellen for today's program.
Want to say anything about the picnic?
Oh, I forgot, Toby.
Yay.
I had to, and then I forgot. Okay, first I'm going to turn it over to Toby. She's going to tell us a little bit about picnic.
Sorry, Ellen. I'm going to be real quick because I'm really in a hurry. As you see, I'm kind of getting ready for the picnic. I've got my hat, you know, it might be sunny that day, and I'm it's $10 to get in, but I only had a Hamilton. So I'm going to use the rest to go to the food trucks, maybe buy extra tickets. Maybe there's something else I can use there. So, you know, maybe I want another glass of wine. I brought my own glass, but we'll have glasses for everybody. So you're going to get these tickets, and look at what you get for $10. You get 10 tickets for the game, 2 for beverages. We'll have wine, beer, and water for you to drink. And I just wanted to show the people who come first, 40 people maybe who come first, you're going to get a free Katie Hobbs t-shirt. It'll be on the candidate table. Yay, Katie. She gave us, she donated those to our picnic. And I just wanted to, I felt, you know, I just had it here. So I just thought I'd show you. I mean, I got my napkins in my picnic basket. I've got my plates in case anybody needs a plate. I have a few extra ones. And I got my picnic basket. It's a nice one, huh?
Mhm.
Pretty. And then, I mean, not that you're interested, but I have my chair. I'm bringing a blanket and a chair in case, you know, I want to move around or I want to put my stuff on the ground. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I wanted to tell you we're going to have some giveaways there. We're going to have an art table if you're interested in doing something political, drawing something political, your thoughts. We're going to have a pie table. If you end up bidding on the pie at the end, you buy a pie, we're going to have paper plates. You can share it with your friends at the picnic. And I was just sitting here before that we all started guessing how many jelly beans are in the jelly bean jar. That's one of the games. We're going to have a beanbag toss, an egg and spoon relay. We're going to have a merchandise table. You can buy t-shirts and hankies there for 1 ticket. And let's see, photo booth with, okay, don't tell it. All right, Biden's coming to the picnic. We're going to be taking photos with Biden. You'll see. And last, a piñata to hit that COVID-19 piñata and break it open, and candy will spill out, and we can all like celebrate. So I know, Ellen, you need to get on with your program, and it's going to be a great program. And I hope everybody will be there for the picnic. It's October 17th from 3 to 6. And I'd love to have you volunteer. I put my email in the chat.
And the visible
Onward. The Visibles are going to sing.
are going to sing.
Democratic candidate. We have a lot more, but I know Ellen needs to get started. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'll see you Sunday, October 17th. Be there. Thanks. Bye.
It's going to be so much fun. Please come. We need to spend time together.
It's going to be great. Thanks, Toby. I just wanted to wish you all a happy voter registration month. There are months for every different thing you can imagine. And believe it or not, September is voter registration month, and September 28th is voter registration day. So now you can't say that you didn't have enough time to go out and buy your greeting cards. You've got plenty of advance notice, September 28th. So in honor of voter registration month, we have gotten 3 speakers who will inspire us, because really, if we don't register people to vote, then we're in trouble, and we're already in trouble. So this is the key to everything. The first person that we have on our agenda today is Mary Darling. Mary is the former chair of the Santa Cruz County Democrats, as well as the former chair of the Council of County Chairs. So she is about as Democrat as you can get. Then she signed up and is now working for the Arizona Democratic Party as Director of Party Affairs. She is also the chief guru for voter registration. Mary and her colleagues conduct trainings on voter registration, and that is where I encountered her. And her training was so good and so concise and so interesting that I thought it would be great to share Mary with you. This is not going to be a training session, but she's going to give us highlights and some inspiration. So welcome, Mary. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Ellen, so much. It's so fun to be with you all. I've gotten super inspired. Climate Crisis Corner, how cool is that? Sad, but cool. And the scavenger hunt sounds like fun, which is kind of the reason I know. I think I might replicate that down here. So no, but y'all are doing some really great work. And Ellen, thank you so much for asking me to join you all. We're knee deep in state committee planning. So I jumped off our last rehearsal to join you all. So I'm super glad I have. I'm here in downtown Nogales. I've been working remote since I've been with the state party. So I've been very fortunate. It's been raining since 6 o'clock this morning, which is super exciting. My plants will be so happy. And yeah, I realized when I was kind of thinking about this morning, I'm not quite sure where I picked up this passion for registering voters, but I think I will hold my mother accountable for that. That was the one thing she wanted to do when she retired from her own position as being a county party board member here in Santa Cruz. She would register voters everywhere and at any time. She would also, any workers that came to our house, she'd talk to them about voting and she would register them to vote. So I think I was inspired by that passion. And I think it coupled with my hotel management background of customer service. And I use that as a philosophy in what I do every day as a state party staffer, but also here in my own county. And what I can do to help our community in a different way, and voter registration seems to be the way to do it. When we do the training, so it's been myself and Jeannie Lunn, who I think some of you may know, we really come at it from a customer service point of view. that we are trying and we are working and we are focused on making it easy and convenient. And when we register voters in person, data and science tells us they will vote. That brief that brief less than 10 minutes conversation with a potential voter in our community resonates with them. And I have been told, and I believe this, that they remember that conversation and hence they will go vote. And part of what we want to do is habitize the behavior of voting. And I have talked about this a lot as it relates especially to younger voters and first-time voters. If they do not vote by mail, because that's a whole other conversation, and you walk into a polling location or a vote center, it can be very intimidating. So we want to make the process of registering to vote and then in turn actually voting to be far easier and far more convenient and far more, frankly, graceful and fun, because we don't have as much fun as we perhaps should. The Arizona Democratic Party has had the focus of expanding and changing our electorate for about the last 5 years, if not longer. But when I was first county chair, I was part of the executive board of the state party. And I remember our former chair talking about expanding our voting population and about changing our voting population. And that has continued as a legacy within the party from chairwoman to chairwoman to chairwoman, which, yes, I realized the other day we have had 3 subsequent chairwomen, which has been kind of cool to think about. So we've wanted to change and expand, and that means really thinking about who our voters are and what are we doing when we register voters. As Ellen said, I'm not going to talk about the technical. Many of you have done voter registration. You know what the form looks like. You've done tabling. You've done door-to-door canvassing on registering voters, so I'm not going to touch on that. I will invite you to join the training, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But as a state party, we have initiated Project 1530 with literally their very first bullet point on their job description is voter registration. That is the primary focus of their role statewide in every county. And yes, that even includes La Paz County, our tiniest, most underserved county that we have in the state. We want to register voters everywhere. In Coconino and Yavapai County, I think many of you know Jay Ruby or know of him. He is our field organizer in the 2 counties, and his primary focus is, as well as the other 8 organizers, is on voter registration. So I'm going to leave, I can leave some things in the chat box, right? Yes. I'm going to leave a link as how you can get involved with Project 1530 and voter registration events, or actually more importantly, because y'all are doing the good work, share it with others. This is a great way to get folks involved doing the good work in our community, anywhere in our community. And yes, Jeannie and I have been doing the trainings. We did 10 every Friday throughout all of July and August and into early September. We stopped doing them and started doing precinct committee basics. And then we moved into, but with that said, we're going to do 2 voter registration best practices training, just like Ellen attended and shared earlier next week as part of National Voter Registration Month and Day. I'm going to leave that link in there if anyone would like to join us, or if you want to, again, share it with others. Part of that training, and I think these are the 2 things I really kind of wanted to talk about, is we talk about 4 key components when we register voters: mindset, location, preparation, and making the ask. And all 4 of those concepts are spinning around when we talk about voter registration. The mindset is coming at this, again, from a community service point of view. We are here to make voting and registering to vote easy and convenient. We might think going to the internet and going to servicearizona.com is easy. Everyone can do it. Well, no, not everyone can do it. Internet access, as many of us all know, in rural communities in particular, to be frank, sucks. It's inconsistent and it's not always easy or available. It is The Service Arizona site does not accept tribal IDs currently. So if there is not a driver's license or a non-operating license, Service Arizona does not work for any other ID. So it is not the easiest thing to do. So being in our communities with actual paper forms makes it so much easier. So, but we also want to think about that mindset, which leads into location. No one is ever asking anyone to go where they are uncomfortable being. We have every one of those 10 sessions, this question came up. Can we register voters at Walmart? Can we go to Food City? Should we go to a shopping mall? Do we ask for permission or do we beg for forgiveness? That has been one of the probably the most robust conversations literally every week in that whole range. There are no easy answers. And what we do come back to is, you know, your community the best. You know where your relationships are. Consider who your target voter base is. Who do you want to register voters? I actually kind of started questioning myself yesterday. In Pima County, they are having a ginormous monster truck event. I've been to one. I had to think about it, and I still am. Are those our voters? And I don't have an easy answer for that one, frankly. We talk a lot about locations. Generally speaking, guns and ammo shows are not our voters, and we're not asking anyone to be, again, uncomfortable. Second Amendment rights, knock yourself out. But there are so many locations and so many voters that may not be the top of the list. I'm not sure about monster trucks. I'm debating that one myself. But think about your location. We have found that locations such as, where do your high school students go after school is out? I spoke with one of our interns here in Santa Cruz last night. She gets out at 2:20. They were at Starbucks doing homework. She came by to get some signatures on a document, and then she was back to Starbucks to finish doing calculus. So my immediate thought in the back of my head, I know where our high school students go. They go to our local Starbucks. So where do yours go? And that is an audience, and those are our voters. Where do other voters go, and where do we need to go talk with them? Not at them, but with them. And then what do you need? We talk about preparation. I maintain that we can register voters everywhere and anywhere. And that was a reality a few years ago when my husband and I were parked in a Food City car park. He walked inside to the pharmacy to go do the needful. He came back out and he said, "Hey, Mary, do you have those voter registration forms?" Of course. So I went in my trunk, went into my metal, bread box, pulled out 2 forms, pulled out a black pen, gave them to him. He walked back inside and gave them to 2 people at the pharmacy. Like literally they were working the pharmacy. He waited until they filled in the forms, gave them their receipt, and came back out with his pharmacy, prescriptions, as well as the 2 completed forms. We can do voter registration, and should, everywhere and anywhere. But preparation involves having the forms, or having, and I'll talk about the unique URL, having a pen, having the knowledge in your head about what you're doing, and then registering voters, talking with them. And yes, they can do this on their shift. You can go back and pick up the form. I did that a few years ago with a Best Buy. I left the form and said I would come back, and I came back and the completed form was ready for me. So we can be prepared anytime. You just need to have the materials with you. And don't make it a big deal. You can keep stuff in your purse or your backpack or in your car. And then lastly, how many people have registered voters? A fair amount of you, right? Okay. What is the question you normally ask when you're registering voters? And if you don't mind, unmute yourself. Like what, or put it in the chat box. Because I'll make a bet what that question is. How many people ask, are you registered to vote? Right? And what's generally the answer?
Usually, yes.
Yes, right?
Or
And
I
they
don't
keep-
know.
I don't know is interesting. And here's the question we are asking you to reframe. So take that, are you registered to vote, which only leads you to a, generally speaking, a yes or no answer, and ask the question, are you registered to vote at your current address? Shift that question to a question where it literally makes people stop and think just for a split second into that I don't know, or I'm not sure. That's your opportunity. And if you can do just that one thing, you actually will increase perhaps the number of registrations or at least conversations with voters, because the follow-up question then is, do you receive your ballot by mail or would you like to? And those are for those, yes, I'm registered. Well, do you vote by mail? Would you like to receive a ballot by mail? So those are a reframing of the question where we have a better success rate. So again, we have 4 key components we think of. Mindset, this is easy, convenient, and we want to make sure we turn our registered voters into actual voters. Consider your locations. Who are your voters? Who do you want to reach out to? And where is the best place to find them? Preparation, what do you need? Clipboard, form, and a pen, generally speaking, are your basics. And then within that context, the Secretary of State last year initiated a unique URL program that links directly to Service Arizona. Every county in the state of Arizona has been issued a unique URL. So basically we can share the unique URL. A potential new voter can click on the unique URL. It literally takes them to Service Arizona and they proceed. However, every quarter, we in every county receive a report telling us how many folks have registered to vote that way in our county. And then Project 1530 has taken it one step further and took those unique URLs, converted them to QR codes. So people with smartphones and a scanner can actually scan the QR code to take them directly to Service Arizona. So thinking about preparation and then making the ask. It is a change in the habit of, are you registered to vote, to, are you registered to vote at your current address? I don't know. And if they say, yes, I'm registered to vote at my current address, great. Would you like to receive your ballot by mail? Those are our 2 big kind of reframing the questions. So 4 key components. And then I just want to touch on real briefly, how many votes did President Biden win the state of Arizona? How many votes? What was the margin?
11,000.
Just under 11,000, 10,457. I looked it up this morning. I don't quote that frequently. That is a field margin. And we last year spent a little bit of time on some underserved communities. And I know Tara will be talking about one of our largest underserved communities, but there are 3 others that I'd like to kind of have you think about. One are federal voters, and those are folks who register to vote and have not provided proof of citizenship to our local county recorders. They are considered federal voters, can vote a federal ballot, meaning they can only vote for presidential, Senate, and Congress. In 2020, as of September 22nd of 2020, we had 20,351 of those voters. I know, right? And in Coconino County, there were 416, and in Yavapai County, there were 105. We called them. We, the state party, gave every county their list, and we called those voters to ask them to please go to the county recorder, show their ID so that they could vote a full ballot, meaning they could vote for the state ledge and every down ballot race, including our very own John Lutz. So federal voters, super important. Jail-based voting. I won't get into restoration of civil rights for folks that have had felony convictions today. That's another day, another conversation. But jail-based voting is a thing. And in the general election, we had approximately 5,872 in the state of Arizona, potential voters that were in jail awaiting trial. and they could have been potential new voters. And in that group, there were 167 in Coconino and 293 in Yavapai County. So jail-based voting is a thing. And there are actually 3 reports that are from 2020 that they looked at every county and gave them an A through F rating about how cooperative they are between the county sheriff and the county recorder in terms of ensuring jail-based voters can actually vote. And then lastly, there are the expat voters or the uniformed and civilian absentee voters. In 2020, there were 21,679 of those voters, más or menos. And of those, 891 were in Yavapai and 637 in Coconino. Little known fact for many folks, if I am a US citizen, I can vote anywhere in any election. I have done that myself when I lived overseas in Indonesia. My husband and I voted absentee, but we voted from abroad. And I did not miss those elections. So there is a whole other range of voters out there that we can actually be helping and assisting by sharing this information. So with that all said, every one of us and anyone we know can learn how to register a voter and can actually do it anytime, anywhere. And so I ask all of you to please help us do this. I will put links in the chat box and you can sign up and share them with others in your community. So Ellen, thank you so much. I hope I didn't go over time. And seriously, I'm so grateful that y'all gave me an opportunity. Thank you.
Well, you're more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. We appreciate your being here. Does anybody have questions while we still have Mary with us? You can just unmute yourself and just ask it because we're a small enough crowd that we can do that. You don't have to put it in the chat.
Hey, Mary, how do we address these jail-based voting folk? I mean, how do we go start that process? I mean, I'm willing to do that. I just wouldn't know where to begin.
Fantastic, Kat. I will do this. There are actually 3 reports: pre-primary, post-primary, post-general election. They're very well done reports. And I mean that by design wise as well. They're like double spaced and they actually will walk you through what you can do. And they will give you the information to help build that relationship with your local county elected officials. Because remember, those are elected officials between the recorder and the sheriff's department. So it's frankly in their best interests as well. But I'm happy to share those reports and I will send them to Ellen if you don't mind, and then you could share them out.
Thank you.
That's fine. Cheryl?
How would I approach the expat community in Mexico? I do have a link down there and she, I think she knows a lot of people who are expats. How would I go about doing that?
Fantastic question, Cheryl. I actually have 2 websites, but one of which is the Democrats Abroad. There are over 60 chapters. And if I recall correctly, there are 4 or 5 Dems Abroad chapters in Mexico alone. And I will include that info in the email to Ellen. And they want to work. The formal global director and I have had conversations earlier this year, and they really want to work with Arizona on broadening their reach. So I'd be happy to connect that with you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Mary, this is Frankie. Did you say that if you're an American overseas, you can vote in any state, or do you have to have a address relationship to that state?
Great question, Frankie. And I don't want to take up a lot of time or go too deep in the weeds, but because there's a lot of different examples of that we could go into, but generally speaking, on a general basis, I will use me as an example. I'm a resident of Arizona. My husband and I were living overseas. We were on the permanent early voting list and we would receive our ballot in the mail, which was kind of weird because Indonesia's mail is worse than Mexico's mail system. But we would get our ballot and we would vote the full ballot and mail it back. And so that was an easy peasy one. It gets a little bit more complicated if I am a 19-year-old US citizen by sheer virtue of my parents and have never been in the United States. They get a little bit more complicated. But with that said, students that are overseas doing, whatever they're doing, the military families, yes, you are somehow connected with your county, and we can vote from abroad.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right. If there are no further questions, then we will move on to Tara Benally. Tara, are you there? Oh yes, I see you there. She actually got on early. Tara is doing some amazing work, and I wanted you to hear her story and the story of her organization. Did anybody on here actually watch the video that was mentioned in the flyer? Several of you. Okay, it's pretty moving, isn't it? It's incredibly inspirational, and I will put that link in the chat so that those of you who have not seen it could still have the opportunity to do that. So Tara has a long history of advocacy on the Navajo Nation. She's committed to healthcare, education, and economic development. And as we saw in the flyer, she has a background in construction, which is kind of interesting. She brought her talents and enthusiasm to the Rural Utah/Arizona project as field director. And it is absolutely amazing what they have accomplished and the number of people that they provided addresses to that otherwise would not be able to vote and registered for the first time. So I just thought it was a fascinating story, and Tara's willing to share it with us. So welcome, Tara. We look forward to hearing what you have to say, and I will put the link to that video in the chat.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate being on here and, just being a part of this panel. A lot of the work that I've done, I think it really stems from my grandmother's teaching about how when you see somebody who is down and out and doesn't look like they want to continue on with life and think, you wouldn't pass that person by. So, giving them a couple of dollars or a couple of change, and that makes their day for them, because you really don't know that person's background. So no matter whatever the reason this individual is down and out, you shouldn't question it, just help the person. I think that teaching has stuck with me through the years and through the work that I've done. As Alan had mentioned, I have a background in construction. I think that was one of the biggest things that I had told myself that I would do when I left high school back in the early 90s was to come home and to help complete and build new homes for my community members here in the southern portion of San Juan County, Utah. And I was able to do that in 2013 to 2016. And so when I originally started in 2013, I really had that background, or my experience was starting down there on the Navajo reservation and working in a predominantly male trade. There was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of things that my crews would fight me on. And so first year was quite a struggle. Second year, we came to an understanding. In the third year, we were on the same level and we were getting our projects done. And so after being with the Navajo Utah Trust Fund for the 3 years to help build remodel homes and build new homes, we were able to complete over 33 homes in just the 3 years that I worked for the trust fund. So having a track record, building a rapport with the people in the community, I felt like, there was something more that I needed to do. It wasn't just about building homes for my community members anymore. So I went on and listening to the people's story while I was working on their home, it was always the same thing, whether that was road maintenance, education for the kids, continued education for the older kids, medical health services. All of these issues was something that I heard constantly on a day-to-day basis. And so it wasn't just about building homes for my community members anymore. So I went on to, well, I didn't go on, but my sister called me up one day and said, hey, can I get your social security number? And I'm just like, wait a minute, why would I want to give you my social security number? And she says, well, you know, I know the work that you're doing and you've been talking about going back to school. So I registered you for school. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, school wasn't a part of the plan, but sure, I'll definitely go back to school. So she registered me with Navajo Technical University for advocacy and legal assistant. So I went to school there for about a year. And while I was going to school, my mom became a board member for another nonprofit organization, Utah Nebuchadnezzar. And I attended one of their meetings one day in White Mesa, Utah, just north of Bluff, Utah, on the Ute Reservation. And what Willie Gray Eyes had said there during the meeting was that Utah Nebuchadnezzar isn't just about getting this land back or having a conversation in this land. It was also about healing for the people. And that resonated with me. I was like, you know what, this is exactly where I need to be. After Willie Gray Eyes had spoken, he sat down and my brother, Mark Mariboy, stood and said, yes, it's about healing, but it's also about prayer. Asking for prayer from the people and in return, giving back that repair to make the prayer back to the people, knowing that we are on that same level and that we are sincere to the matter where the people is concerned at. And so those two things, when those two gentlemen spoke up at their meeting there in White Mesa, really resonated with me. So I followed the Utah Nebuchadnezzar, volunteered for them, did community outreach for a little while until Rural Utah Project approached me in 2018. In 2018, for whatever reason, when they first approached me, I declined the job. I was like, yeah, no, it sounds a little too political for me. I really just want to move things for my community, the issues that they saw on a day-to-day basis. So about a month, I kept declining the job offer. And finally, at the same time, Leonard Gorman with Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission was also doing the litigation regarding voting rights on Navajo Nation and what that all entailed. We had done some survey work for him a couple of years before regarding why people weren't registering on, or why people weren't casting a ballot or voting on Indigenous nations. And I believe there was 5 states that we did surveys on. One was North Dakota, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, and I believe it was Montana as well that took part in that survey. And so just sitting there listening, attending to a lot of Mr. Gorman's lectures on voting rights and the issues that Navajo was facing on a day-to-day basis really was something that I had heard from my community members while working on their homes back in 2013 to 2016. And so I was like, you know what, maybe this is where I need to be. This is where, and it really was something that I was wanting to see happen. And so when TJ and Drew Cooper approached me again one last time before their deadline to hire an individual to do the work, I finally agreed to do the work. So going forward in 2018, we started doing door-to-door knocking. Well, door-to-door knocking was something that we hadn't thought of at the beginning. We just kind of went to the local clinics there, the IHS clinics in Montezuma Creek, Monument Valley, and then started talking or asking to do presentation at the chapter meetings because Mr. Gorman was already there doing presentation. It was along the lines of the work that we will be doing, which was voter registration. Wow, and so and so going forward, we start doing voter registration, and we were about 2 months into voter registration, maybe 2.5 months into voter registration, when we realized that the county clerk, a lot of the voter registrations weren't being accepted because of the physical address that people were writing in the physical address part of the form. A lot of times the people gave directional address, and so having gone back and being able to talk to the county clerk and trying to figure out where each of these individuals live. We had a hard time with this. So what he did was he would take the PO box number, and a lot of the Navajos on the reservation, on the Utah portion of the reservation in Utah, use PO box numbers and then directional addressing. And so the county clerk would just try to pinpoint where each of these individuals were, where they said their address was at, their residence was at. And so it was confusing, and a lot of the people weren't put in the right district or the right precinct. I think the nearest one that we found was about 5 miles from their place of residence, and the furthest was about 50 miles. And so we went, and at the time, Google had done a presentation in California during a conference out there regarding addressing and other issues. And one of the guys, Herbert or Norbert Naz, had, was there at that conference and heard about us, and we just kind of started talking, and we decided to implement or partner with Google to implement the plus code. And plus code is just a series of alphanumerical numbers and alphabets, where the longitude, latitude was shortened in a shortened version with a plus sign in the middle. So we started to use that and to address a lot of the homes in southern San Juan County, Utah. And once we were able to implement that, the addressing, we were able to identify those individuals through voter registration to find out where their place of residence was, and to put them in the right quotient, in the right district and stuff. And so our work turned out to be not just the voter registration, but to do the addressing as well. And so to come that election 2018, we were able to get a good turnout. We were able to register over 1,600 people, and we had, we were able, and the people were able to vote for their candidate of their choice. At that time, it was Willie Gray Eyes and Kenneth Mariboy. And so, and they both won in their district, District 2 and District 3. And so, when we first started going out to do door-to-door knocking, setting up tables, whether at the clinic or at the chapter houses, or even just anywhere we could meet people, we were met with a lot of skepticism. We were met with a lot of distrust, and we were just, people were just not wanting to register and vote. And so we had to go back to the drawing board and just really just kind of decide how we want to go about moving. Drew was about, like Mary had said earlier, just going out and just being direct about, are you registered to vote? Are you registered to vote at your address? And people would, Navajos, they would rather be approached, that they would rather have you introduce yourself to them and say, this is my clan, this is where I'm from, this is where my family is from, this is who I am, and I'm doing this work because. And so really an introduction is what Navajo, they appreciate that more than having somebody just come right out and say, hey, are you registered to vote? Because a lot of that is, there's a lot of distrust with the government, whether that's local, federal, state. And so we went back and we started to implement that part of Navajo into our voter registration. We started to train our staff to introduce themselves in Navajo first, to know their clan and to know their community, where they're from. And each of our field organizers, we made sure we're from each of these communities and we're familiar with these communities, their own communities, and knew the people in their area. So they would know, so when they went to work on or do voter registration on going door to door, when they introduced themselves, the individual on the other side of the door would say, yeah, okay, I know who your family is, I know who you are, and they were familiar with that individual. And so that had started to really move our voter registration program. We were able to start communication, and people were starting to ask questions or wanted to get educated in why it was important for them to register, what they needed to do next after we were doing voter registration. A lot of the times when we hired on our field organizers, we needed them to be fluent Navajo speakers as well. We had some young individuals who we hired early on that didn't speak Navajo fluently, but because they introduced themselves in Navajo when they went and knocked on doors, the people realized, okay, this is a young individual, they're from our community, maybe I can get someone to help me to, translate and stuff. And so So one of the things that we implemented into our program at that time was to start an interpretive program as well with Navajo Technical University. Our pilot run happened last year before COVID, right before COVID, but unfortunately we only had 6 individuals go through that program. I believe we had started with 12 individuals, but because of COVID, the lack of broadband, internet services, cell services, half of the people, students dropped from that class, but we were fortunate enough to have 6 who completed that program. So we're doing the interpretive program this year, hopefully here in the next month. And so we went out and recruited individuals who were fluent Navajo speakers, who have done some sort of like social work or some type of medical work, people who work with the people individually when they would go to their homes and help them with services such as financial aid, Medicaid, and those types of things, food stamps, different types of services that they applied for at the state level. And so we found those, we went out and reached out to those individuals, hired them on who were fluent speakers, who were familiar with the work that we were doing, because voter registration, you have to both know English and Navajo to be able to interpret the form, to educate the people why the form, they need to fill out the form for registration, what the next steps would be. Here in Utah, we have satellite offices across southern San Juan County, Utah. We had one in Montezuma Creek, we had one in Bluff, one in Monument Valley, and another one in Navajo Mountain. And so with each of those locations, we needed to have an interpreter at each of those locations. So we were able to do that. And moving forward with working with the county clerk, he was able to find, with our help and with Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission's help, we were able to identify an individual, Peggy Scott, who would be at each of these locations during their satellite office during the week when they were open in each of these four locations. And so the interpretive services was something that the people really needed. And before, they didn't have that service. And so a lot of our poll workers in that area would try to interpret the voter registration forms or the ballot themselves. And a lot of times we found that they didn't know the issues. They didn't know the background of the candidates on the ballot. And so moving forward, we hope to continue the interpreters course through with NTU and have, so that way we can have interpreters both at the polling locations, doing the voter registration, and also just educating the people on the different processes after voter registration, after the voting has taken place, and then following through with making sure that the candidate of their choice, when they take office, that they're still participating, whether that means going through to the meetings, commenting, doing public comment at those meetings, and regarding the issues within their communities. I think I might have taken a little bit longer. And if there's any question or anything, I kind of just try to shorten a lot of that. And my stories tends to take about an hour and a half to tell. So, but I'm really proud of the people who came out to register to vote, even though they were a little skeptic at the beginning and slammed their door in my face. I mean, I had a number of people slam the door in my face, but I made an effort to say, look, I am coming from a background. I would introduce myself as Hopi. I have a Hopi background. My great-great-grandmother about 5 generations ago was Hopi, who was stolen by Navajo and brought to Navajo, and he brought this young girl back to his wife and said, here, I brought home a slave for you. But fortunately, this Navajo who was with me said, no, I will not take her on as a slave. I will raise her as my own. And so my grandmother, 5 generations ago, came to be a part of Navajo because of this, the Navajo lady that decided to raise her as her own. And so when I go to introduce myself, or when I go to knock on doors to do canvassing and stuff, that's how I introduce myself. I am Hopi first, but my fathers are Navajo, and I give that side of my clan. And so people will look at me like, well, what is Hopi doing on Navajo? And I says, because out of respect for the Navajo lady, the lady that took in my grandmother as her own, instead of taking her in as a slave, I want to pay that back because, I'm fortunate enough to be here. because God only knows what would have happened to my grandmother if she was a slave. She would have run away. She would have, all these things would have happened to her. But fortunately, she was raised by the Navajo lady. And so when they hear my story and I say, in respect for that lady, I want to come back and tell Navajo, thank you. I want to do this for you. Let me help you. Let me help you to make change within your community. Let me help you to understand and educate why this system needs to work for us, for the people.
Thank you, Tara. That's quite a story. Fascinating. Does anybody have questions for Tara?
Well, I have a comment, Tara. I watched the video and I just want to commend you for your efforts. I mean, you're driving to, it looks like the middle of nowhere to go knock on a door. When we canvass around here, sometimes we have a hard time in our rural areas. It doesn't compare at all to the work that you do. You are so dedicated, and thank you so much for all of your efforts.
You're very welcome. And the work that we did in Arizona, that wasn't even in 2018 when I did the voter registration here in Southern San Juan County, Utah. In the 3 months that I had a rental at that time. So in the 3 months that I had that rental, I had put on over 10,000. Let's see. So that was 10,000 every month for 3 months. That was like almost just under 40,000 miles on that car, that rental. And when I returned the rental car, they're like 40,000 miles. And I was like, it's unlimited, right? The guy was like, yeah, I think so.
Well, that's
But
good.
it was almost triple that when we did the work in Arizona last year. I mean, just being out there and being able to tell the people that I can help them make a change, that was my biggest drive. And then just the people going through COVID-19, having to be at home every day on a day-to-day basis. Because a lot of our families are on the road as well, whether that's them traveling to school, traveling to work, or just traveling to the nearest town to get supplies for their family. And so it was just great to see our families just to be a family at home. I mean, COVID wasn't the greatest thing in the world. This pandemic hasn't done us any good, but it has brought a lot of loss. But it helped the people. I feel like that it helped the people to understand what it means to be a family again, to help one another, to reach out to other family members and to really support each other's. And so hopefully with everything that we do and going forward, that we continue to have our communities participate in this. And so yeah, I really enjoy the work. I love talking to the people. I love being out there. But unfortunately with COVID, that's just not possible. So, but we do still go out and knock on doors when it's possible. But what we would do is we would call ahead first and then go out to these homes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That is fascinating, Tara. You're doing such great work, and the votes from the Navajo Nation made a huge difference in the 2020 election. And we're all grateful for that. So thank you for being with us today. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. And thank you for having me again.
Oh, our pleasure. If that isn't inspirational, I mean, what Tara and her folks have to do to register voters is above and beyond. And they get up early in the morning and drive all those miles. It's amazing. We have it easy. We stand in front of the library or wherever we are. So that was awesome. Well, I want to show you a different take on.
May I ask something?
Oh, sure.
For questions?
Yeah, sorry, Kat. Is Tara still here?
Yes, she is. I see her.
Okay,
Thank you.
Tara.
Tara, I've been working with Thomasine Cardona in the Yavapai Apache tribe in the Verde Valley. And we've been talking about, how to get people interested in voting, and the objection we often hear is, pretty much, why do I care about what happens, outside of my nation, and I'm wondering, is door to door the best, or maybe a combination of planning events or putting out flyers or having material to hand to people, to get people interested in and aware that their vote, you know, at the state and federal level affects them directly?
Well, when I originally first started, you know, we used to table at, like I said, clinics and stuff. But when I went, I think what was really effective was when I started going door to door and knocking on doors and really just having a one-to-one conversation with individuals. That really, I think that helped to really get the word out there, because, you know, when you sit down and you take the time to listen to what that individual, that family is going through on a day-to-day basis, and you come back at them and say, well, look, this is what voter registry, the work that I'm doing, the voter registration that I'm doing right here, right now, can change all of that. As soon as we put your ballot in, you know, we put that in the system, you are counted. You're accounted for financial services. You're counted for grants. You're all this money, federal money that has been pushed aside or, you know, has been allocated elsewhere, can start coming into your community to help improve your community, whether that's for infrastructure. You know, a lot of people, they want to participate. They don't realize that they want to participate until you start to tell them why it's important, what voter registration, what it means for them to cast their ballot, what that all entails, what that will make. I mean, a lot of these doors will open for them, and helping the people to understand that, I think, really was what was the key thing that really made our voter registration drives successful, was what we were able to educate them on why it was important to register to vote and to cast your ballot, because there was so many opportunities, and to follow through and to participate, like at the commission level or at the, you know, at the local level, and then at the state level, and then at the federal level as well, just to educate on the different issues that are happening in their community is the beginning, is the start. And just knowing who their candidates are and just giving those candidates background as well.
So we want informed people going out there to do this job.
Right. See, I didn't have a political background at all when I started in 2008. I was like, yeah, no, not promoting any candidates, not doing that. Plus, we were a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 as well. And so voter registration, but when it really came down to all those stories that I was told when I was working with the Navajo Trust Fund, building those homes and stuff, you know, it gave them opportunity to get the funding, the resources that they needed for a lot of these issues that they saw on a day-to-day basis.
All right. Thank you so much, Tara. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We have a surprise guest who was not on the publicity flyer, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Jason Berlin. I want to first show you something that I bought a few weeks ago that I think is just awesome. This is not your mother's voter registration. Can you see this? It says register to vote. On the back of this t-shirt, it has a QR code. And this QR code, people can just put this up to your back and be taken automatically to Voterizer. They just put in what state they are living in, and they will be taken in Arizona to Service, Arizona. So how cool is that, to be walking around a county fair or walking around anywhere in this shirt? Jason Berlin is a really interesting person. He was a TV writer for 18 years, and then Donald Trump was elected. And so he quit his job and joined the resistance. And so he joined the California Democratic Party. They hired him as a regional organizer for LA County. And there he rallied a volunteer army that registered 6,000 voters across Southern California. They helped flip 5 swing districts in the 2018 midterms, including Orange County, which is a tough nut to crack. Within weeks after the midterms, Jason founded an organization called Field Team 6 with a simple mission, and I love this mission. Registered Democrats save the world. That's awesome. So he brings proudly partisan voter registration methods to swing states. Field Team 6 helped register nearly 3 million Democrats in 2020. Helping to defeat you-know-who and hold the House and flip the Senate. They go to critical areas, and that's where they do their work. Currently, they are registering in new swing states, and Arizona is one of those. So Jason, we appreciate your being here so much today, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say to us.
Oh my God, thank you so
Welcome.
much. Thank you for that
Thanks.
amazing intro. And thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Democrats of the Red Rocks. Thank you, Tara, for the amazing work you do and voter registration in the, one of the toughest areas imaginable. And you made a gigantic difference. Oh my God, in Arizona and the country. So yes, so I'm Jason Berlin with Field Team 6. I would love if everyone could put in the chat just how long you've been an activist. I don't think anyone's going to say just today, but I'd love to see that. Since 2016. Okay, yeah, that's, I've been an activist my adult life, but really didn't get into it since Trump was elected in a huge way. Okay, yes, 5 years. I marched in 1969. Yeah, all right. 30 years. Yep. Okay. So I'm a baby, compared to some of you who have been putting in the work for decades. That's beautiful. And so I just want to thank all of you, whether you've been doing it like Cheryl since 2008. Yes. So, or whether you're class of 2016 or whether you just started right now. But if you've been doing anything the last 4.5 years, 5 years, thank you for saving the world. You deserve to be thanked for that. At least 3 times, as far as I can tell. The midterms, 2018, 2020, exiling the fast food fascists to Mar-a-Lago. And then January 21, anyone who helped with the 1,000,000-to-1 Death Star shot that was the Georgia runoff, getting 2 Democrats elected. That's insane. Giving us control of the Senate. Thank God. By a 0-seat majority. It's the slimmest there is. And that's why we have to rely on some 2 senators who I don't have to name. You know them too well. But without that, nothing good would be possible. So thank God, thank for all of you and for the work that you've done. Ellen told you my story. I started Field Team 6 after the midterms with the idea that voter registration, there are some people doing it, like Tara, and amazing organizations across the country, but there's kind of a vacuum as far as a national organization that does very strategically targeted partisan voter registration, always respectful and polite, never in your face, always respectful and humanizing, but also proudly partisan. And so that's what we set out to do, and go big and see what kind of good trouble we could get into in 12 target states. So in 2020, we reached out to over 15 million people. And yes, we helped register almost 3 million swing state Democrats. And that brings us to today, where, as you know, you're all here because you know the urgency of the moment. You're not waiting until like the month before elections. You're here doing the work because democracy hangs by a thread. And historically, the party that wins the White House tends to lose seats in the Senate and House. His history suggests we'll lose the Senate and House in just over a year. So there's just one thing to do: defy history. We can do that. In fact, we've just done that those 3 times. And so now we need to do it again. And all of us here have already been working on this for the last year since inauguration. So Field Team 6 has our goals for the next just over a year for the midterms are to save the Senate, save the House, and win down ballot along the way. And we're doing this in 8 triple word score states. Triple word score because they are in play for the Senate, at least 1 House seat, if not more, and down ballot. Of course, Arizona is absolutely crucial to all of this because we need to reelect Senator Mark Kelly. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. We need to reelect Tom Halloran to the House and get rid of David Schweikert. Those two, we've picked those two House districts because they seem the swingiest. We are absolutely open to getting rid of more Republicans, not closing the door to that at all. And we need voter registration. We need to register Democrats all over the state because every single Democrat will be able to vote for Senator Kelly again. And you know, and we want to win up and down the ballot. Also need a Democratic governor. That's a huge race. That's hugely important. And all the LD races, they're all important. Yes, Katie Hobbs. Oh, that's incredibly exciting that she's running for governor. So yes, so what we do that's different from other voter reg organizations, we are proudly partisan. What that entails is when we do a live voter drive, we wear a partisan looking shirt. We might wear a Biden Harris shirt or Senator Mark Kelly shirt or a March for Our Lives shirt, Resist, Democrats, Pride shirt, anything like that looks liberal. It's Republican repellent. It really works. It does the heavy lifting for you, So we also recommend using a good opening, good conversation starter. Like what we've used the last 4 years is, "Excuse me, miss, can you help me save the world from Trump?" And that, you say it with a smile. And we meet lots of Republicans because that's where we're supposed to be, in these purple areas where we need more Democrats. The most common response from a Republican is they chuckle and walk by. What you find, and you probably, most or all of you know this, when you're doing things in person, it's so much harder for people to dehumanize you because you're a human being standing there. It's much easier when you're on the phone. Total respect to all phone bankers. It's much easier when you're texting. It's even easier because there's so much anonymity. People can say ridiculously bizarre things to you. That fuels me, by the way. I don't let it get me down. My dad is a doctor, but the thing he really loves is annoying people. And that's one thing I get from him sometimes. It's definitely part of my character, and it helps in organizing. Organizing Republicans. I mean, annoying Republicans. If that can fuel you, wonderful. It'll keep you going for a long time. But yes, we get out there. Now we can't say that exact sentence because we got rid of Trump. Thank God. Thank all of you. But we can say, "Excuse me, miss, can you help me get rid of Trumpism? Or can you help me save democracy? I'm registering Democrats today to vote by mail." Something like that. You mix it up, make it your own. Your own words will always be the most effective. But we get out there and say things like that. And of course, the first 20, 25 people will walk by. They'll be too busy or ignore you. But there will be that 26th person who you say, "Excuse me, miss, can you help me save the world from Trumpism?" And she'll stop and say, "Oh my God, give me that right now. I don't care what it is. I need to sign it." And you have a conversation and make a connection. And that's the entire point of it. Voter registration, when it's done right, should be fun. It should be more than fun. It should be transformative. It transformed my life. It's so addicting to talk to people and turn their voice into a vote. And find these good-hearted people who are usually, if they haven't registered yet, they're usually low or no information people who are good-hearted and just don't know about politics yet. Maybe they're a young person who grew up without politics in their family, and I feel like they see politics as a big room where everyone's yelling at each other. And if they go in that room and they haven't picked a side, both sides are going to be yelling at them, so they just don't go in that room. And we're there to let them know it's okay. We can have a pleasant conversation about politics, and we can even give you that little bit of information that lets you make the right decision. We can tell people what the Democratic Party stands for. you know, and just getting that little bit of information out, letting them know that just very basically that President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are the heads of the Democratic Party. And I say the word president, I say Joe's first name, give them as much information as you can. You might even say President Barack Obama was the head, you know. You can say Trump was the head of the Republican Party. And you can use whatever expression on your face you want when you say that, you know. But then, like, tell them a few facts about Democrats. Tell them that Democrats are the only major party fighting for women's rights, fighting for civil rights, fighting to relieve college debt, fighting to expand healthcare instead of take it away, to address the climate crisis instead of ignoring it, fighting to defeat COVID by using science, as crazy as that sounds. That's what we're doing. So letting people know those things can definitely get them to say, yep, I'm a Democrat. Okay, sure, Democrat. So in addition to the live voter drives that we will be rolling out wherever and whenever it's safe enough, we definitely want to pay attention to Delta, and always safety is our top priority. But so we're having Zoom trainings every 3 weeks for Arizona specifically on how to hold a voter drive. And that can be, holding a voter drive could be 15 people if you want, could just be you and a friend going to a community college for an hour or two. That counts. That's absolutely a voter drive. We have those. Everything that we offer is free, of course, and never want to present any barrier to organizing. In addition to those, we have phone banks. We have intermittent text banks as we can afford them. We have postcarding, and we have social media storming, which you can join if you don't know anything about it. That's fine. We have a wonderful trainer who trains everyone from scratch at the beginning of each social storming party. All you need is a Twitter account or an Instagram account or Facebook account, and you can do that and really get the word out there. With this California recall that was so nuts just recently, we generated 32 million impressions in the last 4 days of it. Really helped get the word out that, you know, people need to vote no. Just very clear messaging, and I think it works. I think it really helps. So those are all the ways you can help. You can also help behind the scenes if you'd like to. We always have need for that. We have over 20 volunteer teams doing very specialized stuff that people are massively overqualified for. We always need help on the back end. And let me drop some key links in here. You can find under all volunteer opportunities, you can find the trainings for Arizona.
I did put that in that link in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much. Awesome.
There's one September 29th and another October 20th from 6 to 7 p.m.
Perfect. Yes, as it gets less insanely hot there, you'll be able to go out more and know about that. And we have 2 chapters. And they're not incredibly close to you, but we have a Maricopa County chapter, and I can put the contact information for our field director there, Doc Gooding, in the chat. And we have a Southern Arizona chapter, Tucson area. Gil Weir is our field director there. You can put his contact information there too. And yeah, we are here to help you get out there and register Democrats. So whatever we can do, contact us, and we're here to help. We have managed to put all our learnings about voter registration into something called Voter Drive in a Box. What link for that is in the chat. It's a very streamlined 1-page thing that has all the links you need. It has all the training you need to be able to do this in a super fun and easy and effective way. So check that out. If you have any questions or just want to, please come to one of our trainings. You can always contact us too at info@fieldteam6.org. And I've talked for too long. Are there any questions about any of this?
So I have a couple of questions, Jason. I'm Kathy. Thank you for all your work. I think you guys are doing amazing stuff. And I know that Coconino County, especially up on the campus, the NAU campus has used your techniques and we want to learn how to do it here more. So Sedona is kind of unique in a sense, at least the Sedona part of the area, where we don't have a lot of festivals. We don't have places where a lot of people gather. We don't have things that would draw a big Democratic crowd where we could go, or a crowd that we could go in and talk to. So I'm wondering what your advice is about that. And I'm also wondering if you've looked at Map the Vote, and that app that's supposed to tell you where non-registered, supposedly Democratic people live. So, because we'd like to figure out how to do it here. But we get a little stuck on those barriers or challenges. Yeah.
For sure. So those are great questions. In general, what we do, the voter registration we do is it's hotspot voter registration or high traffic area. So knocking on doors, Map the Vote, I am familiar with that. We haven't done any canvases using that map. We're actually about to start canvassing using our own database that we amassed last year of over 15 million unregistered likely Dems. And we're going to see what kind of results that yields. In the past, we've tried canvassing with the results were dramatically better with high traffic area voter registration than with any kind of canvassing that we've tried. We're not giving up on it. We're still trying to crack that nut, but high traffic area has yielded much better results. You're right to look for events. Those when you have them, they can be great. Pride events are the #1 best events of all time for voter registration. Wish they had them every day. They don't. Barring that, what we do is we find we get our best numbers during the week. Strangely, my theory is just that people are more in work mode and they're more willing to fill out a form. And all this is, by the way, I should have mentioned this before, just voter registration. All it is talking to people and filling out a form. It's easy. It's easy, yes, Sue, I see. I just want to answer this a little more completely. So best places that we find to go. Weekends are not, you can do it on the weekends. It's just a little tougher. Easiest Monday through Thursday. We find that community colleges, aside from Pride events, are the #1 place to go. Community colleges are the best. After that, I'd try other colleges. After that, courthouses can be great, can also not be good at all. It depends on the courthouse, depends how much foot traffic there is. So you kind of just have to try it out for an hour or two, post up there, talk to everyone you can, see how it goes. That's really the best way to know. After that, libraries, the bigger the better. Transportation centers, anywhere there's going to be some good foot traffic. And everything's a challenge now in these COVID days. Everything's different, and it's all an experiment. So we're trying to figure out. You might find places unexpectedly that are amazing. Sometimes DMVs are great. Sometimes they're hard. Sometimes people are very bitter when they're at the DMV. Just depends. So yeah, that's where I would experiment.
Right. Cool. Thank you. Kat, I see several people. Do you see them, Jason? You can just call on people.
Yes. Oh, Sue, I saw you had.
Yeah,
your hand up.
just-
I'm going to drop this in the chat. Our numbers for Arizona. That's what we did in 2020. Contacted over 833,000 and helped register over 195,000 Democrats.
Wow.
I just have a short little piece. I belong to the League of Women Voters, and we had a pretty, Kat, I see you there. I won't be long. We had a pretty strong group put together. Patty Blair is on this meeting too, and a couple other. What always really bothered me was that we could register Republicans. I don't frankly remember ever registering a Republican. I heard about your organization through someone at this meeting, Julie, and I don't want to put Julie Wills on the spot, but she has the best experience working for Field Team 6 locally that you may not be as familiar with because you're not local here. And everything that we heard from Kathy about, we don't have these big events where you just wander through thousands of hordes of people. And so I would love to ask Julie if she wouldn't mind to kick in a couple of experiences or share some of the issues, difficulties, wins that you had, if you don't mind.
That's great. And let me just throw in, thank you, Sue, for your work with League of Women Voters. You're wonderful. That's a, amazing organization. There's absolutely, we have nothing against nonpartisan voter registration. You absolutely need both. You need both. You do?
I do.
Yeah, that's why I went to the Field Team 6 training, because I like League of Women Voters, but I didn't want to register any Republicans. I was done with that. Jason, you were doing the trainings like you had your computer set up in your bedroom and your dog was around. That's how long ago I did it.
Yeah.
We were all set to do the local community college here. I had a couple of volunteers, and then that was January 2020, and they never came back to school. So that kind of really stopped us from doing anything for a long time, because we do have one community college in our area in Cottonwood. We went to Starbucks and we decided to do the thing about asking forgiveness, because I would think the local Starbucks here would have been happy, but they weren't. We were standing outside, and after about an hour, the manager came out and asked us to leave. So we've stood in front of Natural Grocery Store. So we've been there, and we didn't get asked to leave there. So we didn't get to Whole Foods. But the other places I went were just because in Northern Arizona University's in Flagstaff, that's the big university here. So I went up and helped the Coconino Democrats up there. And then Richard down in Phoenix, I was doing that. Yeah, Glendale Community College. I really like the community colleges because you didn't have to deal with out-of-state students that might be registered at home. It was mostly all local kids. And so that's why we were really hoping to do Yavapai. And then I just dropped the ball because my husband got sick, but he's fine now. And I was going to get back and do a practice with you again, or a training, just because I haven't done it in a while. But yeah, it really, we wore blue t-shirts. We did this, can you save the world? Help me save the world from Trump. I loved that line. It was so much more fun than anything else. And we stood, we walked around. We didn't sit behind a table like we did with the League of Women Voters. And so you're right, it was much more interactive and encouraging. And we didn't really have anybody, be mean to us or anything, except the manager of Starbucks when she made us leave. So that was rude. But then that, it is a nice way to do it. And it's much more fun to register Democrats.
It so is. It's an existential threat we're facing, right? Thank you so much for all of that, Julie. That's wonderful. Good to hear that your husband is better.
Yeah.
Also, and yes, great. I love that that you ask forgiveness rather than permission. Mwah, love it. Registering voters is constitutionally protected activity on any public property, and that includes any sidewalk, any outdoor campuses of public colleges. It includes libraries. Courthouses are the definition of public property. We had a cop tell us, no, this isn't public in Orange County, California. This isn't public property. This courthouse is county property. Like, who owns the county? The count? That's public. We managed to get to register there. One of our volunteers is a lawyer, and she wrote to the judge in that courthouse who had cited her, and because she's a total badass, she's amazing, she did that purposely so that she could then write to this judge, and he dismissed it, and we got to keep registering Democrats there. Sorry.
May I please speak?
Yes. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you've all both been talking last few minutes about what I wanted to address, and that is we're in a very red rural area in the Verde Valley, and I have tried to go to the community colleges, the libraries. I've gone to all these places, and anything partisan, they throw me out. This is absolutely an issue around here. So they say absolutely not, you know, so I've always tried to be very low key and not show that I'm partisan affiliated. So, I mean, we're in a really angry rural Republican area. So, this is an issue. And Sedona is better than where I am, more in the, Verde Valley area. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that's my issue. I can't find a place to go. I've tried.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for being so courageous in that. It does vary like per area, and I hear you. People can make it despite what's in the Constitution or what's legal. That doesn't prevent someone who doesn't know that or care about that sometimes from saying you can't do this here. Even if legally you absolutely can. It's not like you're going to mount a legal battle against that person. You're just probably going to have to leave and then go somewhere else. So yeah, it is tough. I would just say
The police will tell you that, if they get any kind of complaints for anyone, and of course they do, they will get complaints. And so you have to move on, because then you're like disturbing the peace by just standing there in a Democratic t-shirt.
Right.
This is a real challenging area.
That sounds super challenging. And
but this is not California, and it's not even Flagstaff.
Right. Sure. Yeah. And by the way, California, the areas that we've registered voters in California are some of the most racist areas I've ever been in my life. So California can compete, unfortunately. But yeah, I hear that. We try to adapt to whatever the conditions are on the ground. One thing that's worked in places like that is to maybe, even though it's legal and fair and there should be nothing they can say, just dealing with the reality, being practical. Sometimes you can, instead of having a Democrat shirt, you can have a women's rights shirt, or pro environment, or pro like healthcare, things that people have a much harder time arguing with if you keep it to the issues. That's another way to address people, instead of, though we'd rather say, can I register you as a Democrat today? We can also reach out with lines on the issues, saying like, excuse me, miss, can you help me fight for women's rights today, or for civil rights? Like, are they really going to get angry that you're trying to register civil rights voters? I mean, maybe they will. Outside that same courthouse I was just talking about, a guy got irate. Of course, a white man, nothing against white men, I am one, but it was a white man who was like, he got so exasperated watching us register voters, he just at one point just yelled to God and the world, like, these guys are just out here registering Latinos. Like, yeah. And like, so
well, one of the things that was suggested to me at one point is when I'm registering people when they're Democrats to take their registration, give them their receipt, and when they register as Republicans, hand it to them, and they're not that likely to mail it in. So whatever.
Oh, that's absolutely what we preach. That's a great thing to do. That absolutely fulfills not only your legal obligation by giving them a form, but you've helped them fill it out. So you've been extra nice already. And yeah, when they tell them, hopefully we screen out Republicans before we get to that point. But there's, it all happens sometimes. They say Republican, and yeah, exactly. Don't have to let them see the light die in your eyes. You can still be totally polite and respectful and just say, okay, great, here you go, and just sign that form and mail it in, and you're good. And yeah, usually it goes under the car seat and lives there forever.
We have a question from Jay. You've been very patient, Jay. Jay is one of our field organizers here.
Hello.
Jay, you're muted. There you go.
Okay. So there are events in Yavapai County, and I'll even say this is going to be true for Yavapai College in Prescott. where the majority of the people there are going to be Republican. Like Yavapai College is not a Democratic stronghold on the student body. There's kids coming from Chino Valley, from Paulden. They're young, their family DNA is Republican. And that's actually my second question. I'm mixing, sorry. My first question is, if you're at a place like a county fair, where you're probably looking at like a 4-to-1 Republican to Democrat difference, are there techniques there in what is this big open forum for attracting Democratic voters? I mean, I hear the thing about the t-shirts. Yeah. The problem is if you're overtly partisan, you get kicked out. Where's the, like, within the vast realm of experience of Field Team 6, is there any type of advice you can offer to, like, I guess, rural red tactics?
Yeah, it is a challenge. Sometimes at a county fair, they allow a Democratic Party booth, and
oh, no, we're allowed a booth.
Are you allowed to rove around, or do they not like that?
I don't really like that.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it is a challenge round, and I don't have all the answers, but what I would suggest is approaching people on the issues, like we're just talking about with Kat, like having a shirt, that maybe doesn't say Democrats, but says something about saving the environment, or just a liberal issue that appeals to people that you can connect with them on. And that can actually, that can be really helpful in connecting with young people who may think they're Republicans, but when you talk to them about what they actually value, turns out they may actually be Democrats, or even maybe you move them over one notch to independent, to no party. And that's also good. Independents are crucial for us winning elections. That's what I would suggest. If they don't allow, some places like farmers markets, typically a lot of them don't allow you to go in and mingle with customers, but they'll allow you to do partisan voter registration at outside the entrance and exit, as long as you're not blocking customer traffic. That's a workaround sometimes. And
they've done the opposite over here.
Oh,
they've done the opposite, where they've allowed Republicans to be very blatant and open about being Republican, and they've thrown me out of farmers markets for being Democrat. So, I mean, this is intense over here. We're really challenged.
Yeah, it is a huge challenge. I mean,
Kat has probably stood before crowds more than anybody on this call right now, because she has worked for the Stop Dirty Money campaigns for years.
At least 3 years now, I think. Yeah.
Full time. That is full time. So God bless Kat for the work that she does. I mean, you do a great stuff, Kat.
Thank you.
I mean, I guess what I heard from your response was focus it on the issues. And if you can't be overtly partisan, focus on the issues and try as best you can.
Yeah, I mean, and when it comes to political, that's accurate. And I mean, and I'd also love to know what you find out, and if you have any tips or tricks that you've learned just from doing this.
I try to target areas where I think there'll be more Democrats, and I think part of it for us is actually getting people to, like, I mean, I've actually had gay men in Prescott say it's easier to be out as a gay man than a Democrat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And building Democratic branding, like building the capacity for people to go to appreciate being Democrats and to recognize that we're around. For me, that's kind of like our first step, is if we can find our own community, then we can resonate and amplify, and then begin to target where to go. But it is
where I focus is telling people that, asking them, do you want your vote to count? do you realize that in state elections and everything except for the presidential, one vote can make all the difference in the world on a policy or a candidate, and that's how I engage them.
That's great. Also, acknowledging that this is definitely tougher work in these punitive, angry red areas. I've registered voters in Huntington Beach, big white supremacist, stronghold in Orange County, and I asked a guy, if he could help me save the world from Trump, and he fell off his bike like a cartoon character. He was so shocked to hear that. So the thing is, when you do find people, you're really throwing them a lifeline to sanity, and they're of course doing the same for us, but it's kind of a victory and just a helpful thing to do, to be out there looking like a Democrat, showing people in this unexpected place that, hey, it's okay to be a Democrat in public. And from now on, I'm making it okay, because I'm here, and I'm just talking to people. I'm not scared, not doing anything scary. I'm just talking to people, trying to get them to fill out a form and turn their voice into a vote. As far as some people have mentioned safety in the chat, definitely, I know it's different for men and women. Whether you're man or woman, I would recommend going out with someone else instead of alone. And if you ever feel even the slightest, that your safety is that you're in danger, I would leave and go to a different place or come back with more people. We always do this in public places, outdoors, in broad daylight. So try to maximize the how safe it is. And so far we've never had any kind of violent incidents, rarely any yelling even. Do you
I think Connie, we have one more question, I think. Connie.
I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm sort of the DORR newbie, but I volunteered to be the liaison in this area. So hello, I'm Connie Levinson.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
I'm not experienced. So I'm just never learned to stop raising my hand. But I'm sure we'll be talking as we get closer to starting our registration efforts. Right now, we don't even know what congressional district we'll be in or whether Sedona will be left in one piece.
Right.
We've got big trouble with our redistricting commission.
Really? Okay.
It may make things even worse. They're, instead of lumping us in with Flagstaff, which is blue, they're sticking us with Prescott, which is very red. And we have nothing in common with them. We go to Flagstaff or Cottonwood, which is a little town southwest from here. And basically the only reason we go to Prescott is to go to Costco or Trader Joe's.
Right.
But we have enough record. We've made that point to them. But in terms of community of interest, we have nothing in common with those people. But right now we're in trouble.
But wherever we are, we still want to register Democrats.
Yes.
Period.
For sure.
No matter what district they end up in.
That's right.
Would that we knew where we were.
Yeah.
Small problem, Jay, just small problem.
That's why the Freedom to Vote Act. Oh, we got to get that passed. We actually have phone banks going into Arizona to talk to voters and get them to call their senators, because it's so crucial, and there are gerrymandering protections in it that would give us a legal ground to fight unfair redistricting.
Our other senator is a bit of a problem.
I know. I know.
Actually, she's a major problem, and we do make calls.
I mean, great that you wear tall, furry boots. Okay, great.
We don't care.
Can you give us voting rights, please?
We call, we write, we send emails. I don't think that anyone is getting through to her. It's like Mansion.
Well,
She's
yeah,
just dead set in her way. But she's
yeah.
lost the backing and the support, I think, of most of us.
There's
I
a
don't know.
thing in
Yeah, I
the,
don't know what she's doing.
there's something
But
in the chat here
yes.
about for Mary. There's a question for you, Mary, about
Me, Mary?
no, Mary Darling.
I'm right here.
Okay, it would be helpful to have the language if we're doing voter registration in public parks, that especially recreation areas where families gather around soccer, sporting events, etc. So what, Jay, what language?
That was actually in reference to the question about getting a document about the constitutional right to register people in public places, because that is often one of the first things is like, you can't be here, we don't allow that. But if you're in a public park and there's a constitutional right, if you can actually just go, yes, we can, it means you don't have to walk away. And there's nothing more kind of like demoralizing than setting up and then being told you have to leave and not having a tool to fight to stay there.
So do you have that language, Mary?
I have it in my head. And as I said in the chat box, there's usually a variety of statutes that I may refer to. I think Jason did a great job on that, on talking about that. I know, because I've done this for so long, I can be standing in front of my post office in downtown Nogales, and I can be on the public sidewalk. I also know having voter registration forms inside the post office is not a violation of the Hatch Act. That was a 3-year project of my own to prove to myself that I was right. And that involved contacting Congressman Grijalva's office over a 3-year period to ensure that every post office in Santa Cruz County, all 7 of them, regardless if they are substations, can have VR forms in the post office. But there is a narrow line on, I don't want the post office staff to be registering voters. That's not my ask. My ask is to be here. So my point is, having a piece of paper will get you so far. It is a conversation. It is understanding how comfortable you are with the beg for forgiveness versus permission. I use this example when we do voter registration training. Safeway was wide open forever. You could do voter registration in front of grocery stores, no problem, any grocery store. Until what? Until the Gabby Gifford shooting. And then Safeway changed their laws, changed their rules, and so did every other grocery store. And then lo and behold, in 2019, Representative Ann Kirkpatrick started doing, not necessarily Congresswoman at your corner, but an adaptation, including not 1, but 2 tents in front of grocery stores in Pima County and doing basic outreach events, which led me to believe Safeway is now changing their rule about that type of activity, which led me to the Green Valley, which is not super Republican, but it's not the friendliest necessarily, to our local Safeway there. I went to the store manager and said, look, I want to do voter registration. Here's the space where I think we can do this. Does this work for you? He was fine with that. This goes to my point. I could show him a piece of paper saying that the property manager said it was okay, but that's already starting from a point of opposition. I would much rather build that relationship for locations like that. Public sidewalks in front of our county building, great thought about the courthouses. There are these places we can be, and at the end of the day, there's a bazillion places we can be. If you get told no, big deal, big deal. It's just move on, just move on. Though I would like to know Jason's opinion on doing the monster truck event in Pima County and what your thought is on that.
You know, I've been to one monster truck rally on a first date. Actually, it's the loudest thing I've ever been to in my life. Just the loudest. Like, so, I mean, that's one thing. Like, it might just be tough to hear yourself and talk to people there. There definitely are. But first of all, just thank you so much for all the amazing work you've done. That's super, super
No,
inspiring.
you guys, literally, I admire you all for the work that you're doing. And I know we can do really great work in La Paz County. And yeah, that's super red area, but I want to be out doing the work there. And I don't care. I mean, I care about personal safety, but there's safety in numbers, great advice on the safety in numbers and issue t-shirts. What a great way to start conversation. Stickers on my purse have initiated conversation, and we don't leave people behind. If we can connect with a D voter in, I don't know, Quartzsite, Arizona, because they see a sticker on my bag saying something, fantastic, fantastic.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And also what you said about being told no, usually how it happens, because parking lots of big box stores, we've registered people in Arizona, throughout Arizona, very successfully in parking lots of big Walmarts and places like that. Those are technically private property, and they can tell you no. Sometimes you're there for an hour and a half and it's fine. You don't crowd the doorway, just kind of have a low profile, walk around safely in the parking lot, look both ways, and talk to whoever you can, and it can be great. If they do tell you no, what usually happens is a bashful teenager comes out who, clearly hates doing this and says like, I'm sorry, you can't be here. And then you say, okay, have a great day. And that's as dramatic as it usually is. In fact, if sometimes there are these multi-acre parking lots. So sometimes you can say, oh, great, no problem, and just walk over there and do it, and it's fine. So yeah, it's usually it's not very punitive, and great to have signage out. I mean, as a white man, I just, not always, but it was always during Trump. Now it's just most of the time. I want to be wearing a liberal looking t-shirt just in life, because I want people to know I'm not, with them.
Right.
Well,
Jason, thank you so much for being with us. Mary, thank you. Tara, thank you. I mean, Kathy can wind this up, but I just wanted to say, this was a really great discussion. Jason texted me and said, I'm going to have to hop off this call quickly. What? Did you just leave? No.
No.
Oh, okay, there you are. He said, I'm going to have to hop off this call because I'm really busy. I'm having a busy day, and I'm going to have to leave immediately. And here it is, almost noon. And so thank you all for spending your time with us. Kathy, do you want to close the meeting?
Yeah, I wanted to say basically what Ellen's just said. Thank you so much, Tara and Jason and Mary, for being here. We're going to keep working on cracking this nut in the Verde Valley. We're going to work with the Yavapai Dems. We already work with the Coconino Dems when they have something going on at NAU, and we're going to keep pushing on this because we need to register every possible Democrat. And I did want to say, if anybody's interested, I'll put it in the chat. Again, I put it in earlier, in helping with this effort. You can send an email to volunteer, no S, just volunteer @democratsoftheredrocks.org, and we'll get your name on a list. And when we get this worked out as to how we're going to go forward with this, we will contact you. So we need people on the ground, and we're going to do this smart, but we're going to do it. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. This is encouraging. Aren't you encouraged? Sometimes I don't want to look at the news, but this is encouraging. So thank you so much for being here. Ellen, what are we doing next month? Just real quickly for our breakfast.
Next month is still in flux. We're not quite sure yet, but
Okay.
the month after that, we have somebody from Words That Win. Jiggy Geronimo is her name, and she's fabulous. Jason, I mean, some of you may have heard of her. I see some of you nodding, but she will be with us in November. So I'm looking forward to that. And she will talk about messaging and what you say and what you don't say. She says things like, they've tested using the word democracy. It doesn't play well. It doesn't persuade people. Don't use fraud it, don't use audit. Come up with something like a sham review. Don't call it an audit. Don't call it a fraud it. I mean, so they've got lots of language tips that will be really helpful to us going forward.
That sounds great. All right. Well, it is pretty much noon, so everybody could go have their lunch now. Have a wonderful Thursday, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thanks.